Hey there, welcome to Product Marketing Maestros, Tales from the Front Lines. I'm your host, Nitin Karthik. As the author of the Amazon bestseller Product Marketing Wisdom, I've always found that real-world case studies are the true litmus test for the effectiveness of any product marketing strategy. And that is why on this show, we dive into the minds of industry titans, as well as rising stars, unpacking their expertise in action-packed episodes that showcase the power of product marketing through real-world case studies. And today, my friends, we are joined by product marketing maestro, Brittany Shulman. Brittany is a product marketer at Expedia Group and an ambassador with the Product Marketing Alliance, and she's based in Austin, Texas. With over 8 years of experience across product marketing, content strategy, and storytelling, she specializes in competitive insight, positioning, and thought leadership. Brittany has built and led global content and product marketing initiatives at companies like Bazaar Voice, working closely with product, sales, and marketing teams across EMEA, APAC, and North America. Known for her research-driven approach and clear, compelling communications, she thrives at solving complex problems, championing customer needs, and helping teams answer the critical question, but why? So with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Brittany Shulman. Brittany, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Nitin. Even after working as a product marketer for years, I still find it so interesting how much product marketing differs company to company, organization to organization, and honestly, person to person. I'm excited to share a look inside my brain and how I approach the discipline.
Absolutely fabulous. And I'm excited, Brittany. So today we're going to give the audience a situation from your experience. And Brittany will use the ABC framework. So we'll talk about the antecedents, the prior challenges. We'll talk about the behaviors, the actions that you took, and we'll talk about the conclusion, how things played out. So with that, pick a situation from your experience and tell us what were the antecedents? What were the prior challenges?
Yeah, a lot to choose from. But I think it's really easy, especially in a field like product marketing, to look for a blueprint, to repeat the processes you've seen other folks do, to copy and paste into a sales collateral template, to fall into patterns that our teams or our managers encourage or at times require. And while I do think there is a time and place to not reinvent the wheel, I think it's important as product marketers to think critically about these blueprints and ask questions. At times, this can feel wildly uncomfortable. Not everyone is okay with someone politely poking holes in their ideas or having a new kid on the block, shake things up. There are quite a few situations I've been in that have pushed me out of my comfort zone in order to do my best work and also to do right by my stakeholders and my customers. But one of the moments that really shaped who I am as a product marketer is the one that I want to talk through here today with you. So in a previous role, I was tasked with creating objection handling materials for what I will call a spicy yet sensitive situation. The best way I can describe it is it's the kind of situation that could have greatly impacted client relationships, reduced company revenue, and created a disaster overall that our legal team at the time would not have wanted to deal with. But with that, a lot of eyes on the situation, and I knew that I had to get something in the hands of my sellers that they could use. But based on usage metrics for our sales collateral materials, I could see that sellers weren't using the current collateral for competitive intel or objection handling. Now, before I went and created more things my sales team just wouldn't use, I decided to dig into why these materials weren't being used. And unfortunately, these were materials that my leadership team at the time had structured, crafted, and championed. So that was a really fun spot to be in.
Wow, amazing. I think I can imagine people in the audience, they must be struggling with very similar situations like what you've just shared. So I think a lot of people can relate to that. So thank you, Brittany. Now, Brittany, let's talk about the behaviors, right? So given these antecedents, how did that guide the actions that you and your team took?
Definitely. For starters, I don't know if you've ever had to propose a complete rework of someone senior to use work, but it's wildly uncomfortable. So before I did any content creation or suggested a new approach, I first wanted to understand why the current approach was the approach taken. So I personally believe that history and context are critical to understanding most, if not all situations, whether that's in product marketing or life in general. Understanding how we got to where we are, I think, is super important. From there, I came up with a proposal for a new competitive intel playbook setup, turning a lengthy battle card that even the search function would get tired of into a choose your own adventure playbook. I think of, those books I read as a kid, where you would say, for path A, go to page 18. For path B, go to page 32. I'm sure a lot of the millennials listening to this can relate to that. But I created a competitive intelligence playbook that mirrored that pretty closely. So it let sellers click directly to their problem at hand, and in a few seconds, they would have access to all of the relevant objection handling and a complete bill of materials that they could use to talk to our clients and make sure our clients felt at ease. So I met with a group of sales leaders for their feedback on the new format, and thankfully they loved it. From there, I was off to the races, and I was able to take that stakeholder feedback and backing to the conversation with my leadership and explain why I thought this new approach and this overhaul of the current system was the right way to move forward.
Wow, brilliant. I love that. So you took the systematic approach, and now that we've talked about the antecedents and the behaviors, now I just cannot wait, Brittany. So bring it home. Now let's talk about the conclusion. So how did this play out for you?
Yeah, well, as far as the literal situation went, the new style of competitive materials were a hit. Sellers loved using them, and more importantly, actually used them, which for any of us who have, created collateral for internal stakeholders, we know that can be the uphill part of the battle at times. And from there, adoption was so high with sellers that the other product marketers on my team actually let this become the new best practice for objection handling and collateral creation, which was super exciting. Not just because something I proposed stuck, but because I saw that I was making my sellers' lives easier and making it simpler for them to have these conversations, with our clients. Now, in terms of what it meant for me as a product marketer, it really solidified my belief that one of my superpowers is showing empathy for my customers, whether they're a paying client or an internal stakeholder. But also, it really confirmed that as a product marketer, as a professional, as a person, it's really important to trust my intuition and to not be afraid to ask questions, even when it gets a little bit uncomfortable. I often joke with folks newer to working with product marketers that it's my job to ask questions and create understanding for everyone involved. While the experience I shared was the first time I had to drive a pivot from senior leaders, it most definitely was not the last. And while I can't say it ever feels completely comfortable, pushing back or providing a new perspective to senior leadership, it does get easier when you learn to trust in your own intuition and trust in your thought process. So asking the hard questions, championing what a client or an internal stakeholder really needs, and being able to think about the big picture and the brushstrokes simultaneously, to me, are three of the things that sets a product marketer apart. While this can definitely create some temporarily uncomfortable moments, it also leads to much stronger relationships and product portfolios. So with that, I know I said that it's easy to look for a blueprint and we have to think outside of the box. So I know folks listening to this are probably thinking, what can I take away? What can I do myself? The biggest piece of advice I can give is to trust your intuition and to not be afraid to ask questions. Those two skills are going to do far more than any blueprint or template will do. So don't be afraid to ask the hard questions. Honestly, it's probably why your company hired you.
Absolutely brilliant. Wow, Brittany, thank you. You laid that out so well. And there were so many things that people can take away. So absolutely fabulous. I enjoyed it. I learned so much. I'm sure the audience learned so much too. So now, Brittany, tell us, if people wanted to learn more about you and what's next for you, where can they do that?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to connect on LinkedIn. Feel free to find me, send me a request. In terms of what I'm sharing on there, you'll usually find me posting somewhat blunt commentary on travel, product marketing, and the overall state of work. I also post a lot of photos of my dog, Bella, because, well, LinkedIn can always use a dog or two while we're inevitably doom scrolling. In addition to that, I'll be speaking at the Product Marketing Summit in Austin at the end of February. There are still tickets available, so grab your ticket. I promise PMA didn't tell me to make that plug. I'm doing this on my own. If you do choose to come attend the summit, definitely come say hi. Finally, my co-ambassador for PMA, Ben Marullo, and I are planning the next PMA Austin meetup. Make sure you're a part of the PMA Slack channel to get the invite, and those details will be coming out soon.
Wonderful. So, Brittany, thank you so much. Folks, there you have it. If you like these insights, please reach out to Brittany. And for even more insights, check out my Amazon bestseller, Product Marketing Wisdom, at productmarketingwisdom.com. And see you next time on Product Marketing Maestros.